That wind is hellacious.
Welcome back, everybody. As you can see, we're not in our normal filming location on top of the dock. We're actually underneath the dock right now, because if I were to get outside of this little enclosure that we have here, you guys would be hearing hellacious wind noise, because it's gusting probably 20-30 miles an hour, and we have consistent 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. So I wanted to kind of block that wind noise, and as you guys probably noticed in the intro as well, we had some hellacious winds out at the range. So we did what we could to get some hits, and we were using this little guy here. This is the Trijicon TA-31 with the new ACSS Aurora Reticle. For those that haven't been watching, we're doing SHOT Show here from the Carolinas, trying to get a video out every day, which is not normal for me, on the new stuff that's coming out at SHOT Show. So normally you see guys talking about stuff in a booth, or maybe shooting a few rounds out at range day, but I wanted to get the stuff in my hands ahead of time, which I did, and put some actual rounds through them, use it, and get you guys a little bit better feedback than you can get from like a booth review. Not knocking them, just trying to improve upon that for this audience. So what this is here, the Aurora Reticle, is essentially a RCO improved, in my opinion. So this one here, the BDC Reticle, is for 5.56 and 308 as well. And basically they took it, put it in meters, because the majority of military units, including the US, use meters for engaging targets at distance. So we have a BDC that goes all the way down for 5.56 or 308, like I said. And the RCO, for those that don't know, there's 3 different models. One for the 20-inch, one for the carbine, and then one that's kind of in between. This one here is in the kind of in between one. However, what folks over there at Primary Arms, Dimitri specifically, did was come up with different 0 points that's going to work depending on the ammo that you're using and the rifle that you're using in terms of barrel length. So here we have a Colt 6940. Throughout the testing, I was using M193, so we zeroed an inch high, as you guys can see here in the chart. So whatever it is that you're using, just make sure you zero it correctly, so that way your BDC will be on out to the effective range for that round for this optic here. So the reticle, of course, is the big news, so let's kind of walk through that first. Again, those of you familiar with the RCO will know that there's these little brackets on the outside, both on the right and the left side. Now, what those were previously used for is essentially to give a reference point. So, for instance, you could say, hey, put your reticle on house number 2 if you're out like in an urban environment. Now, you see stadia line number 4. That's where the bad guy is, right? So it gives everybody on a team who's using the same optic the ability to communicate. This one, of course, has that same capability. So if you wanted to use it that way, you can. However, these lines have way more stuff going on than the original RCO. A huge, huge improvement in my opinion. So essentially you have both 5 mil and 2.5 mil increments for anybody familiar with the mil system. And then you also have the ability to range folks. So you can range either from the waist up. Say, for instance, if they're squatting, if there's dead space and you can only see their waist up, or you can range full height as well. So you can do either one, and that's going to give you the approximate distance away. Again, that's based on the 5'10" standard. That is a military standard for auto ranging for BDC, and then you'll know where to hold on your reticle as you come down. Since I just referenced the middle part, let's get into that. On top there, we do have our chevron, and it comes in both green and red. That part is illuminated by the dual illumination, so you have both tritium and fiber optic illuminating it. So if there's no daylight out, it's nighttime, the the tritium will illuminate it, and during the day, the fiber optic is going to gather light from around it and make it even brighter to kind of give you the balance that you need for the conditions that you're in. We can talk about that here in just a second as well. But the actual BDC portion of it is what I wanted to get into. So you're going to see your traditional hash marks all the way down out to 800 meters. Again, it is in meters. And one thing you'll see in between the ones that you're used to seeing, like the 6, the 8, the 4, is that you'll see these little dash marks. And what those dash marks are is the in-between points. So for instance, the shooting that you guys saw me doing out there in the prone, I was shooting at 509 meters. I meant to do 500, but I messed it up. So it was 509 meters is what it actually was. And of course, I was holding off at that point there in the target. As on the sides there, what you see there are full value wind holds. So basically the one that's closest to the center line is going to give you a 5 mile an hour hold, and the one that's further out is going to give you a 10 mile an hour hold. Now that, again, is for full value. For those that don't know, full value wind is coming directly perpendicular to you, right to left or left to right. Now you have half values, quarter values, and all the other stuff, but that's of course up to you guys to use and determine rather and use as the shooter. So if you had a half value, of course you'd cut it in half, right? That's kind of how it works. So it gives you a lot more reference points than what you'd have with your typical ACOG BDC. Another feature that the reticle has is the ability to engage moving targets, because of course in a dynamic environment that happens, right? So bad guys tend to run, bad guys tend to drive away, those sorts of things. So you have your dots right there on the right and left of the center line, which equates to 8.6 miles an hour, which again, that's a military standard for a moving person with a rifle. Then the brackets, again, that we talked about earlier, can also be used to engage moving targets. So you're going to start out at 20 miles an hour for the inner one, and you're going to end out I believe at 35 miles an hour. I will annotate that if it's not the case, but the illustration should be here on your screen as well. The last point that I forgot to mention is the center line ranging capability. So when you're actually looking at the little safety lines as they go down, again, not including the little tick marks in between, like the 500 meter, like we talked about earlier, but what you have there is an 18-inch person or object at that distance, right? So again, military standard is going to either be 19 or 18 inches, depending on whom you talk to and what book you read. So that's going to give you the range estimation, shoulder to shoulder, of the average adult male. Again, just like the 5'10" standard that we talked about earlier. So if you were to put those lines on someone and it shows up, say at 4, i.e. their shoulders are right apart at the 4 hash mark, then you have a rough estimation that they are 400 meters away. So that's how that works in the reticle. So wanted to get into the other things that are awesome about ACOGs. So on top there, we do have our covered windage and elevation knob. Of course, the top is the elevation rather, and the side is the windage. Each click is positive. You don't need a tool for it like the old ACOGs. I'll put it near my microphone. You guys should be able to hear that. It definitely gives you positive feedback there from the shooter's perspective. It does come with the TA-31 mount. It does screw down. You can have the knobs on either side. I know people like to argue about that on the internet. I'm not sure why, but it comes with it. You can also use any number of aftermarket ACOG mounts that are out there. So there's tons of them. Geissele makes them, Midwest Industries, etc. The list goes on. So tons and tons of good options there. One thing that's kind of a con about the ACOG, particularly the TA-31 model, is the short eye relief. So yep, it definitely has short eye relief. And as you guys probably noticed with me shooting it earlier, I was kind of right up on it. Now the benefit of that is that you get a huge field of view. So compared to other 4X optics out there, the field of view is fantastic. And speaking of the field of view, ACOGs have some of the best glass on the planet, in my opinion. I've shot scopes, that are $5,000–6,000 in my day. And the ACOG glass, honestly, side by side, you'd have a tough time telling the difference between the two. So it definitely has excellent glass as HD glass, and it's shot glass, I believe, for those that know what that is. We also have these little wings out here at the top of the back. That's for mounting an RMR. If you want to mount an RMR on top, you can do so. So that way you can have the 4X capability to go out at distance and then kind of pick your head up a little bit more and engage with the RMR in close. So that, again, is going to be one of the downsides of an ACOG with a fixed power, is that it's a fixed power, right? So you can't zoom it like you can with a variable power optic. However, the pro of it is that it's just bomb proof. ACOGs are probably the most combat proven optic on the planet right now. Maybe a aimpoint CCL could give it a run for its money, but I mean, countries from all around the world use ACOGs, use them in all kinds of theaters. There's plenty of pictures of guys who have had their ACOGs physically get shot with bullets and stuff like that and retain zero. They're awesome. Very, very well made. All aluminum exterior. It has a nice coating on it. Not sure what the coating is called, but it kind of makes it look rubbery, but it's not. It's very hard, very durable. And again, durability wise, really, really hard to beat an ACOG. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that it is illuminated by fiber optic and tritium, and kind of one downside of the ACOG is that it illuminates the reticle based on where you are, so based on where the actual optic itself is. So if you're in, let's say, a dark room and you're shooting out into a bright alleyway, or let's say actually right here underneath the dock and you're shooting out into the lake, it's going to illuminate here, not the target. So right now it's very, very sunny outside and windy. You guys might be able to hear that as well. But if I were to shoot out there, the reticle would be adjusted to here in the shade. So that is a downside. However, there's very few situations, in my opinion, shooting from dark to bright that's ever an issue. The time that it can be an issue is when you're shooting super, super bright conditions, and it kind of washes it out. And that, again, is only going to be the illuminated portion. So I'm not sure how much of a real problem it is, because basically you're talking 300 yards and in. If you put it on there, you guys can see the BDC there, 0 to 100 yards. You're gonna hit what you're aiming at. However, some guys don't like the blooming effect. A lot of people use tape for it and tape it up I've done that in the past. I've done it for years. I actually keep one on my stock for that very reason. But it is a potential con to it, again, just depending on the context that you're using it in. Just a couple points I wanted to get to before we close the video out. This one here has the green illuminated reticle. It also comes with a red option, so you guys can pick whichever one you prefer. Me personally, I prefer green. I think that I pick it up faster and I get better contrast with it. However, I think most people probably prefer red just based on experience, used to picking up red dots and those sorts of things. But comes in both, and same price either way, and let's talk about that. Price is definitely going to be a con for the ACOG for a lot of folks. However, some folks look at it as a pro, so I guess that's up to the end user. But right now over on Primary Arms website, these are going for $1,277, so it's not cheap for sure. But who would want an ACOG, right? Somebody who wants something that's bomb-proof, end of times, you can always rely on it, and it'll always be there. Right now, it does have tritium in there, like I talked about, and the reported shelf life of tritium ACOGs is, I believe, 12 years is what they say. However, it has an etched reticle, so even without it, you can still use it just fine in low light conditions. As soon as you hit that light, it's going to be there, it will be visible, and you'll be able to engage with it. So that is nice. Again, it's super bomb proof, it's rugged, it's durable. Anybody who just wants an optic that they can always depend on, they can leave it in a closet for 10 years, pick it up, go back out to the range and shoot with it with the same ammo, of course, and you'll still be zeroed. So there is that. I think a lot of guys with this RCO type setup are really gonna like it for clones. Again, I really think it is an improved RCO. The way this rifle zeroes, again, with that chart, depending on the ammo and the barrel length that you have, is phenomenal. It can be used really across a ton of different rifles and in a ton of different situations. I think that makes it definitely the most versatile of the RCO styled optics. Of course, like I said, cloners and ultimately, hopefully militaries. You know, I think this definitely gives you a much better product for the end user. I was issued an RCO at one point in my career. I can tell you nobody even told us what the lines on the sides were, the bracketing lines, ever. It was never brought up. So with this one having an actual functional capability to it in many different ways, as you guys saw, is awesome. Definitely an improvement in my opinion. Hopefully the guys, military guys, are taking a look at it, and some of the procurement guys are taking a look at it down the road if they choose to go with another 4-power ACOG. Me personally, I would like to see the boys get this instead of what's currently out there. But not that what's currently out there is bad, I just think this is better. And better is always better. With that, we're going to end the video because I've rambled on long enough. If you guys have any questions, you can post them down below in the comment section. However, the best place to reach me is over at my Facebook page. I tend to answer all the messages I get over there, which isn't the case on YouTube, Full 30, and elsewhere that I post, simply because I don't see them over there, and I do see them on Facebook. So that's also where I post sales, deals, stuff like that. If this ever goes on sale, you guys are going to see it over there at my Facebook page. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this helped and gave you kind of a good idea as to what the new Aurora reticle in this ACOG can offer you. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you in the next video. Probably only been a couple minutes since you've seen me in this video, but it's been hours in real time. And the reason I'm doing this follow-up video here at the end is because folks were asking about this rifle and then the conditions that we were shooting in out there. I posted a quick clip there on social media, got a lot of questions, so we'll answer them in this video before we finish it out. Rifle there, 6940 free floated handguard built into the upper. Light is going to be the Streamlight rail mount. Impact weapons components. Trigger is going to be the Geissele single action trigger, which is excellent. Mautic rear, car stock, and everything else is stock on that regard. It's a very accurate barrel. It shoots very, very well. And people were asking about the conditions. So as you guys saw, it was really windy out there. You guys can see those trees moving. I'm holding literally double the 10-mile-an-hour wind hold. So I was, taking the distance, doubling it, holding off, and when I missed wind. So the wind was throwing those 55 grain pills around out there for sure. Imagine doing it though without the wind hold. So that's kind of, again, one of the improvements of the ACSS for sure. So that's it, guys. That is the rifle, and those were the conditions.